Welcome to Hip Hop Now Podcast. If you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. Don't disrespect the legend. Hip Hop is here to stay. Let's get right into the business.
What up, y'all? I am your host, Vegas, and this is Hip Hop Now Podcast, a podcast specifically designed to keep you caught up on all things hip-hop music and culture that happened throughout the week. Big shout out to the supporters over at patreon.com/hiphopnow. And if you would like to support this podcast in that way, visit the link in the description of this episode. And there's another way you can support this podcast by purchasing merch. You see the logo in the background. I got hoodies, I got t-shirts, I have stickers for your laptop. Whatever you need, we got them. The link to that description is also, the link to the merch is in the description of this episode. That's what I meant to say. Big shout out to allhiphop.com, hiphopdx.com, thesourcemagazine.com, Double XL, Threads. Let's talk about that really quick. So if you don't know and you frequent the internet or the internets, shout out, rest in peace to Combat Jack, you know or you don't know that Twitter has been a very crazy place. I once did a podcast called Hip Hop Twitter, where I took, actually, you're going to get a taste of that a little bit later today. But I would basically take takes from Hip Hop Twitter with my homie Yentz and react to them. Right? It was a whole podcast. It's about 2 or 3 seasons or whatever. Some would guess, blah, blah, blah. And Hip Hop Twitter is a thing. Just like Black Twitter is a thing. It's like a group of individuals on Twitter who really only talk about hip hop. That's what they tweet about. That's what they listen to. That's what they debate. They do spaces. Hip Hop Twitter. It's like an unofficial community. Well, Elon Musk bought Twitter, and as you know, things have happened where a lot of people aren't happy. Some people left, blah, blah, blah. But over this past weekend, and if you're from the future, you know what to do. Get your ass out of here. But during the July 4th weekend, we had a couple of competitors, serious competitors, challenge Twitter. One being Spill, which Black Twitter kind of rushed that joint. But it's very different from Twitter, somewhere in between Twitter and Instagram, right? In its style. And it's kind of fun. But right now it's in beta form. So it's only available on iPhone and invite only, but that's just so the app will work for the people who are using it. That's what beta means. It's a testing phase. But the other app that was ready when it launched, ready, just not a beta, but ready as in it's operational, is a joint called Threads. And it's made by Meta, the organization or the company that owns Facebook and Instagram. It is a direct link to Instagram. So if you have an Instagram account and followers, you can instantly move your profile or attach your profile to Threads and kind of retain all your followers and use it like Twitter. It's more like Twitter, right? So you know the hip hop heads are headed there, so we don't know what's going to happen. But for you and for now, we are including a feature on this show that used to be a part of my other podcast, Hip Hop Twitter, later. So stay tuned for that. And let me just make sure, we all set up for that. We set up? Yeah, we set up. Okay, cool. So with that being said, let's get right into the business. Mobb Deep and the Stove Sample. Now, this is on hiphopdx.com. Havoc debunks Mobb Deep Shook One's Part 2 Stove Sample myth. Now, if you don't know and you're like, well, what is the myth? What are you talking about? What is this? If you know the song Shook Ones, right? To All the Killers and $100 Bill is that one. When it starts, there's a ticking sound. And according to Havoc, it's a Project Ghetto stove ticking sound. That's what he described it as, but it's a stove ticking sound. You know, when you're going to light the gas stove and it ticks before the flames hit, that sound, that tick. Well, the myth is that that was a stove in the crib and he sampled it. But Havoc says sometimes the myth is better than the truth. Let's read. Let's see. So Havoc has debunked the long-standing myth surrounding the stove sample of Mobb Deep's classic song, on Mobb Deep's classic song, Shook Ones Part 2. In a new interview with SiriusXM Radio, he had this to say, and I quote, "You know, when a myth takes on a life of his own, Havoc, sorry, you just be like, F it, you don't want to hurt nobody's feelings, so you just agree with the myth. I'd be like, all right, F it, yeah, it's from the stove." Now, he does go on to say, "The truth of the matter is that the hi-hat that I used on the actual track of Shook Ones sounds similar to a project stove, or just a stove, because I don't live in the projects and my stove, I used to, but my stove in the suburbs sounds the exact same way." So people made a correlation thinking I used the stove for the actual track because in the video, it's the first thing that comes on along with the record, and they hear the stove. So yeah. Now, what's crazy about that is when I first heard that song and throughout the years, I never thought that sound was the sound of a stove being lit. Now, when you think about it, with all the cook, crack, and cook, coke raps that exist to this day, it would be dope. Like he said, it's actually dope when you think about it. But I also didn't think that was a hi-hat when I heard it. I don't know. I guess I thought it was the metronome or something. I thought it was something. But nevertheless, it's not a stove. So the myth of, or the legend of the song stove clicking sound in Mobb Deep's Shook Ones Part 2 is just that, a myth. It's a legend. Probably kind of sucks that he dispelled it. He probably should have left that there. He probably should have made a song where he does sample the stove making that clicking sound. So then people can go even crazier, like, yo, he did the stove thing, but all throughout the beat. I don't know. But it is interesting to learn that that was something people thought. And for Havoc to point out, was just like, yo, it was just the way the hi-hat sounded. It sounded like a ticking stove. There you have it. Childish Gambino, or Donald Glover, as some of y'all know him from Atlanta, he had confessed that This Is America was originally a diss song towards Drake. That is interesting. That is really interesting. Let's see what we can find. One of the headlines blasted Gambino in the 2018 anthem, which the Atlanta creator previously admitted started out as a Drake diss. So started out as a Drake diss. I had the idea 3 years before. He explained, I told director Hero the idea. He's like, oh, wait a minute. So this is deeper than I thought. We may have to read this. This is also on hiphopdx.com. So the thing is the song by Childish Gambino was originally started out as a diss song towards Drake. And Donald Glover, or Childish Gambino, revealed that recently. Drake did a concert recently, and he didn't say anything, but they had a ticker going across the bottom of whatever he was showing that said the song is overrated. Now, I have a problem with that, but we'll get back to it. This is on hiphopdx.com. Drake has shaded Childish Gambino's This Is America during the opening night of his and 21 Savage's It's All a Blur tour in Chicago. While Drizzy performing headlines on Wednesday, news headlines began running on a digital ticker through the side of the United Center stage. One of the headlines blasted Gambino and his 2018 anthem, which the Atlanta creator previously admitted started out as a Drake diss. This is what the ticker said. The overrated and over-awarded hit song This Is America was originally a Drake diss. Interesting. Glover's provocative This Is America topped the Billboard Hot 100 in May 2018 and is now 3 times platinum. Speaking to GQ, Gambino touched on his icy relationship with Drake and admitted the song started out as a joke and Drizzy diss track. I had the idea 3 years before, he explained, told director whoever. The idea, and he's like, I really want to do that. The idea for the song started as a joke. To be completely honest, This Is America, that was all we had, was that line. He continued, it started as a Drake diss, to be honest, as like a funny way of doing it. But then I was like, the ish sounds kind of hard though. So I was like, let me play with it. Ah, boy. Pause. Elsewhere, we're just going to stop right there. Couple of issues I have with this. You know, when you say something started out as a diss to another artist, it's going to be news. You know, Aubrey, aka Drake, is very emotional. You know, at some point, if he hasn't already, is going to say something or do something as he did with this ticker thing. Because that's who he is. And maybe there's a method to this madness. Now, the song being over-awarded and overrated, I think it is debatable. I don't like it because of what it represented at that time, right? Because to me, to take a jab at a song that was originally supposed to, so started out as a diss record, but it really only had one line that said, This Is America. He hasn't said anything about you, so why would you be angry? I know you can be angry or upset or bothered by the fact that he was going to diss you on a record, but he didn't. It turned into something else. And to downplay the success of a song that was, along with All Right, that was directly tied and connected to things that were going on in this country at the time, meaning Black Lives Matter and the killings of innocent Black men and women by police across the country, right? And we know this happens across the world, but specifically at that time, that song represented something to somebody. And maybe, and why I say he kind of has a point is only because I think visually it did more than it did sonically. Because if you were like me, you saw the video first, then the song meant something different because you had the visuals to go with the lyrics. If you heard the song first, then maybe you didn't get it. Maybe you didn't really like it. Maybe it just didn't have the same impact. The video and really is more about the direction of the video, right? How it was directed. That's what was dope about it. It was how it was directed, right? So the song was like a soundtrack to this thing as opposed to it's this great song that just happens to have a great video. And sometimes people just, it goes hand in hand because the video has now enhanced the song. You get what I'm saying? So from sonically and as an artist, I get what Drake might be saying, but also I don't remember any Drake records that were synonymous with messages as it pertains to Black Lives Matter at that time when he's recorded all kinds of things. Kendrick did it. Childish Gambino did it. Joey Badass did it. Lil Baby did it. Couple of them did it. So to me, just let that headline of what Childish Gambino said about a potential diss record, let it go. But this is hip hop. And I don't want to see a Pusha T versus Jim Jones battle. But I think I want to see a Childish Gambino versus Drake battle. I think I want to see that. I think I really want to see that because there's a lot of similarities there with those two as it relates to the music they make, the acting, the singing. It can kind of get kind of crazy. I'm not saying they got to do all of this in a record. I'm talking about they're both creative cats, right? It will be interesting. So there you have it. And lastly, so not that long ago, Ransom, rapper who's been in this game for a while now, put out the fourth iteration of his project, his series, Director's Cut. This one being Director's Cut 4. What's the full title? Director's Cut 4 Rise of the Machines, right? Kind of like a Terminator theme. It's 10 tracks, 33 minutes. Originally, it was released on this website where, you could purchase it. It was exclusive. You could purchase it and gain access to the album and, other perks like an autograph or something like that. I'll leave a link to the description in this episode so you can get to that link because support hip hop, right? 50 years of hip hop. But I'm a busy man, y'all. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm an older cat. I'm not the oldest guy you may know, but I'm old enough to need time and space in order to listen to the music I like. Half the time I listen in the gym. I'm just not gonna navigate on my phone trying to work out to get to your album through a site I've never used before, right? So I was getting around to it, but I never did. Well, Nicholas Craven and Ransom released the album or the project on all streaming services. I'm pretty sure it's on iTunes also, so you can go and buy it that way. He'll get the bread. He'll get more in this other link, but he'll still get the bread. But it was my opportunity to finally hear it after, I guess, a week or two of it being out. And if you have been keeping score with this podcast and my last episode before the Run the Jewels episode, where I talked about my top 5 and how this top 5 I have of the year so far could be completely different. 2 slots have already changed. One was the addition of Killer Mike's Michael, and the other one now is Ransom's Director's Cut 4. Features include Shay Noir, Talib Kweli, Nick Grant, Crooked Eye, amongst others. This man is one of those things. I heard Ransom a long time ago, mixtapes and all that, and I always thought he was nice. And I always wonder what happened to him. But when you talk about MCs aging well with their craft, not many do. Some regress, right? Get worse, right? They don't know how to find the pocket when it comes to rapping anymore, or they pick beats or make terrible choices, or they feel like they got to make the music of the kids, right? In order to sustain their wealth. Some rappers, celebrity are bigger than their pockets, right? And you see it in the moves they make, and in specifically with their music. But Ransom, man, is just, this album is for those of you out there who want to hear punchlines, bars, quotables, whatever way you want to characterize it. You need to listen to everything being said. There's concepts within verses, there's concepts within lines, there's concepts within songs, there's concepts within the album, right? Rise of the Machine, Terminator theme. And every time he does this, whether it's the director's cuts albums or the other albums he had that kind of had a specific theme pertaining to film or whatever it may be, or just pop culture in general, just keep doing that, Ransom, because this project just, it makes me proud that hip hop still exists in this way. That there's an artist who's not a new artist who's hungry and for attention. It's an artist who could have gave up a while ago. It's an artist who could just be happy with 3 fans and that's it. He going for it every time. For example, there is one song, and forgive me if I do not know the name. It may be Manchurian Candidate. I'm not sure, but leave the comment in the comment section. But he does have a song, right, where I'm sitting here working out in the gym, listening like I usually do for the first time. And I'm just like, yeah, this album's crazy. I'm feeling it. And I'm listening to this one song, and he's talking about not taking the vaccine and playing for Duke and all this stuff. And I'm like, damn, I didn't know all of that was going on with this man. But then at the end of the verse, he said, who am I? And I was like, oh, you're Kyrie Irving. You just described him. Is it something that's going to blow you away, change your life? Probably not. But it does raise a certain level of excitement in me as a hip hop head, because we just don't get people who want to commit to just doing hip hop, right? Everybody trying to be rich, everybody trying to be the ultimate drug dealer, everybody trying to be the most popular person, try to cross genres, you know what I'm saying? I'm a rap over trap, so the kids like everybody doing all this other stuff. But what happened to just pure creativity? Whatever happened to concepts that stuff? And I know I'm going a little bit long. But you know, when this man was writing this stuff, you know it. He knew it was going to be ill. And he was writing it for the heads. Had to be. Because that's who's going to dig it. And it's not an exclusive club. But it's just makes so much sense. Honestly. So, again, this is my impressions of this project. But again, Ransom and Nicholas Craven, director's cut for Rise of the Machines, is one of the best albums of the year, hands down. No debating it. So far, right? We'll see what happens. See what happens. That top 5 is really competitive for me at this point, when it started off kind of slow, starting to pick up a little bit. So before we end the show, we're going to do a little segment that will be featured probably monthly for now until Twitter disappears and we got to call it something else. But we are adding, as I mentioned, Hip Hop Twitter as a segment on Hip Hop Now podcast. So, to my correspondent, Yentz, what are hip hop Twitter heads talking about this week?
Ice Spice got so many quotable lines, it's insane. I might be jumping the gun a little bit here, but she really reminds me of Reasonable Doubt era Jay-Z. Yeah, oh yeah, you jumped the gun, you jumped out a window, you jumped off of a speeding train. You need to jump into a pool of piranhas. This shit is stupid.
Stop it. Stop. We're not going to do this. This is why Threads and Spill and Blue Sky and Mastodon, this is why the Twitter is going to be sparsed and gone. Hip-hop Twitter is out of control. There's nothing, respectfully, there is nothing about Ice Spice and her music. Pick one. Blindfold yourself. Pick a song out. right? There's nothing about her music that's even comparable to Reasonable Doubt and Jay-Z. Nothing. There's no, oh, they're both from Brooklyn. There's nothing there, right? There's nothing there to draw the connection at all, in my opinion. If you want to, I mean, there's barely anything there for someone like to have comparisons to Lil' Kim or Foxy or whoever, right? This is just a hot take. This person would need to give me more information as to why they would say that. But at the end of the day, I don't even know if this person knows what they're talking about. Some people just like to be the captain of the team, the president of the fan club of an artist just because. Sometimes they do it just because they like them. They know their artists, but they don't know the artist they're comparing them to. That's the problem, right? They know the artist they love, so they can argue why they think they're great. Of course, you like them. But how can you compare them to someone who's so different? That suggests to me that you don't even know the project or the artist you're comparing them to. You don't know that work. Because if you did, you wouldn't even draw those comparisons. They were too different. And if you just like saying things because you think eventually they'll be true, eventually you'll realize you don't have many friends. And eventually you hopefully will stop saying that. So there you have it. That's going to do it for me. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Spill, and Threads at Vegas World INC. Please know that this podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts on audio form, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Overcast, Pocket Cast, whatever it may be. Hit that subscribe button and stay locked in. But if you would like to watch the video version and you're on YouTube already watching it, subscribe to the podcast, hit that like button, comment if you want. I do respond to comments, but most importantly, share this content with people you also know would enjoy it. Until next time, y'all, I'm not a critic, I'm a fan. 50 years of hip hop. Peace.